Hello and welcome into another episode of the Dig in Denver podcast, a podcast for the people, by the people. I, Derek Bettis, will be the master of ceremonies for this episode. And thanks for joining us for another episode. We're going to do a quick little recap here of some of the games that we just had, some of the great wins, as well as look forward to the great game that's going to happen tonight against Portland. Some really interesting stories going on here. Obviously, the use of Nurkic and a lot of other good stuff going on, so we'll dive into that in just a second. I just want to go ahead and mention, guys, make sure to go over and check out digindenver.com. That's, of course, is the site that you'll be able to go check out the articles that we do publish on there. Make sure to go follow us on Twitter at digindenver, our YouTube channel where we put some cool practice videos and stuff like that as well for you to look at, some quotes and some interviews that we get. And also go follow our Instagram page as well. Get to pull some cool practice pictures up there every once in a while and some other stuff going on there. So go follow us on all the social media platforms. If you haven't already, make sure to go hit subscribe for iTunes and make sure to be updated on every episode that does come out. We do really appreciate it. If you could take a second, just go in the review section, leave a quick review for us, and then a rating as well. Just let us know what you do like, what you don't like. Make sure we're catering the show to what you guys want to be listening to. So, and we'd really, really appreciate that, guys. So thank you very much. And without further ado, let's dig in. Alrighty, guys, it is game day. Very excited about the matchup tonight against the Portland Trailblazers. Of course, kind of a conference rivalry with the fact that Jusuf Nurkic, former player here, is over there. And they did sequentially bump us out of the playoffs last year with that last win that they had. So that was definitely a tough one, considering some of the bad blood that's gone on between Jusuf Nurkic and especially the fans. And if you remember last year, he threw a little shade at the end of the game when he told the Nuggets, have a nice summer after they like I said, bumped us out of the playoff position. So it'll be an interesting game tonight. What's interesting is that Adam Mares of Locked On Nuggets, great show to go follow and subscribe to as well if you don't already. He actually mentioned something about the Locked On Trailblazers podcast, that they were saying some interesting things about Jusuf Nurkic. And they had mentioned on there about him not trying on defense, his effort, and a lot of other stuff that was pretty interesting to me as well. It's unfortunate because Jusuf Nurkic is a great player. Obviously, I don't necessarily love the guy either, but I do like his style of play. I did believe and still believe he can be a great player, which he's shown. He's actually been doing pretty good this year, but it's just the attitude things that sounds like it's coming up. If anything, that's the biggest thing that I took away that just kind of came up again. It just sounds like the effort and the attitude is kind of coming back. Obviously, we don't know the extent of it because we're not witnessing like we were able to last year before we had traded him. But there's some similar things in what the guys were talking about there that lead me to think that the attitude's starting to be a problem again. And they did mention about having to keep him actively engaged and stuff like that, which we all know the storyline here in Denver. So I thought that was kind of funny. But like I said, it's going to be a good game. Definitely one of the games I'm most excited for. I am excited for when they come home, how that's going to be. It should be a nice little tense atmosphere. Of course, CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard last year, when we had Jusuf Nurkic and he was actually in the starting rotation, Damian Lillard, hit that clutch money shot when they started off kind of that sequence of games last year where we lost a lot of games, decided within 4 points, and we last minute shots or just turnovers at the end. A lot of stuff that it sounds like actually Portland's experiencing this year too. They have been having some troubles finishing out games, and it sounds like they've been having some troubles, finishing out games. They had a real good game the other night against the Memphis Grizzlies that they lost to, it's a good team. They're figuring out some things just like the Nuggets did at the beginning. It's really nice to see all the Nuggets fans coming out and really supporting the Nuggets, especially because we're doing so good. We are ranked first in the Northwest Division. Phenomenal. That is so nice to see, and that's such a nice contrast to see that we're playing really good, and then we're third in the West right now. Which is even nicer to see. It just goes to show you that the West is a tough league. There are some really good teams out there, even like Portland. Portland is going to be a good team, and they're going to give people – I give them more credit. I think they're going to be a little bit more dangerous than people had given them credit for. I think the Memphis Grizzlies are going to be another team. Everybody counted them out this year when the first rankings came out, and That's nothing. That's something you don't want to do with the Memphis Grizzlies, the old grit and grind crew over there, and they still have some really good players for the team. So everybody in this conference is going to be at a minimum a pain to deal with night in, night out. So the conference is awesome. It's a fun time for basketball, especially in the West Side. East, whatever, but there's still some good teams. Whatever. Definitely most excited for that. However, the Nuggets are coming off a nice little win spree here. We went 5-1 for this last home team little stand here, which was really nice. That really bolstered us into those spots like I was just talking about. We won against Toronto, Miami, Brooklyn, OKC, which is a great game, and Orlando as well. The OKC game was probably one of the more important games of the season so far. Even though they're not off to the hottest of starts, the team is still good, and those three players are actually playing really well together. They're playing surprisingly in better sync than I would have imagined that they were going to with the different characters that are in that squad. Westbrook, Melo, and Paul George. Paul George I thought would mesh fine. It'd be the whole Melo and Westbrook matchup, even though they had some familiarities with each other before. I just didn't know how it was going to work out. It's almost a calculated amount that those guys are actually distributing the ball together, the points that they're averaging. It's definitely an interesting matchup, but they're still a good team. They're still a fantastic team, and the Nuggets really needed to come out and perform against a good team in the West, and it was a great showing for the team. The offense was flowing. Everything was looking great. The defensive side was looking great as well. It was just a full, complete game against a solid team. Maybe not the best team in the West, but definitely a solid team, and a team that beat the Nuggets last year, especially in that last game where Westbrook went off for his record-setting triple-double amount and knocked us out of the playoffs completely. Hit that three, that dagger 2 feet in. I don't know if you remember that episode that we did, but that was a heartbreak. That was a heartbreak for sure. So Nuggets pulled it out 102-94, so it was a tight contest. We did start to hit the gear in the fourth, which was really nice to see that there was consistency as well. And I think that's the most important thing of this season so far, right, is consistency of getting better. We've had some steps back or whatever, but even then we're able to learn some things. Well, one or two things looked good. And it just looks like the guys are starting to get it, especially the pairing and spacing between Nikola Jokic and Paul Millsap look like they're really starting to understand each other, the spacing, how to work around each other. Of course, the point guard play is continuing to increase. Emmanuel Mudiays went off and had just a hell of a game. He really impressed a lot of people around the Nuggets sphere. He had, in 29 minutes, he had 21 points, 5 assists, 7 rebounds, went 8 for 10 from the field, 4 for 4 from the three. Just a stellar game. He was a positive 17. It was the most confident I've ever seen Emmanuel Mudiays. He's never looked so quite sure of how to play his game, how to best use his skills and his advantages to really help control this team in the direction to win. Even Nikola Jokic at the end of the game, if you had watched the post-game interviews, Nikola Jokic even mentioned something about how Emmanuel probably covered, or something to the effect of something like Emmanuel carried us the whole game almost, or something like that. But what he was saying was that Emmanuel really took the helm of that team that night and led with a confidence and maturity that we haven't seen, and a consistency as well. Man, the kid was on fire. There's a lot of Twitter trolls actually out there talking about, Emmanuel. He was the scrub of the night that lit up the Oklahoma City Thunder, and about his shooting percentage. And Emmanuel's actually bolstering an improved percentage. Before that game, he was at 38%. Now he's up in the 40s, and I think that suggests, right, that he's a little bit better shooter than he really is. I think that 38% is a really true percent, and who knows, he's not going to go 4 for 4 every night, but one thing he's really good at too is the pull-up three. I've been noticing that this year as well. He's hitting a high percentage of those stand-in threes when somebody's playing off him in transition too far. He's not scared to pull that trigger, and so far he's been knocking them down. So it's no surprise to people here that his shot is improved on this year. It was nice to see him hitting his shots, but also the most important thing and the biggest part of his game against the OKC game was that he was able to finish his shots. He was being aggressive to the rim, and because his three-pointers were falling for him, they had to respect him out there, which made him even more lethal on the inside because the kid is so quick, he has such a great first step, and he has the ability to get to the rim. His issue is finishing, and against the against the Orlando Magic game, there's a couple finishes where, man, he burned the guy, had a great move, I think, on Jonathan Isaacs down low, just used great footwork. Of course, he froze Mo Spates. You know, he went that little Euro step inside out, and Spates just stuck to just concrete, and Emmanuel finished nicely. But anyways, about the Isaacs one, he had some great footwork, burned Isaacs, and then missed like a wide open layup. And that's some of the things that he has that he's done in the past, at least, is that he's had a real hard time finishing once he gets to the rim, which is frustrating to watch because it's like, dang, you make the move, you did the right thing, you got to the rim, and then you don't finish. And I don't know what part of it, if it has anything at all to do with it, is that oftentimes, especially last year and not so much this year, he ended up on the ground so often, whether he was a make or a miss. And he still, like I said, does it sometimes, but it was even more evident last year that he would end up on the ground a lot. And I don't think he's flopping. I don't know. It's not a body control issue. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they exactly correlate, but it's interesting to see that he would end up on the ground a ton. And I don't know if that's, once you get to the rim, he's not finishing strong, which that's what I personally believe it is, because he had a couple of layups in the last few games where normally he would have maybe tried to do something fancy or, an up and under, something kind of with some touch to it. He just two-hand exploded. Didn't look like he had any intention to dunk the ball, but two-hand exploded, took the contact of the body, and finished strong. And that's his strength, and that's using it to his advantage, because a lot of these teams aren't used to a point guard at Emmanuel's size going straight at him with his explosiveness. The kid can get up. So I think he just needs to continue to really press the issue on that, handle it with poise and maturity, and man, the kid's potential, that's the most exciting thing. If you listen to the show normally, I normally have my co-host Logan. This is just a solo episode, but we've been homers for Emmanuel for a long time. We honestly believe that the kid has that massive potential, and a lot of people do. It just, it's wavered here and there. And if you heard some of the media guys that actually mentioned about how Emmanuel wasn't even around, he left the locker room so they couldn't even ask him any questions. And he was real touchy like that this offseason as well, especially at media days and the training camp, more specifically. And if you didn't go take a chance to look at it on the YouTube page, Brandon Ewing and myself actually got an interview with him. Brandon was able to ask him a couple questions, and before we were able to get those questions, he had some hesitation. He had some reservations about speaking to us and what we wanted to talk about. There's been a couple occasions too during that summertime when he had a press conference with Malone and some of the other guys. Rafael Torres, the site owner, actually was on that conference call, and a couple of people had asked him about the mounting pressure or the mounting pressure that was going to be placed on him this year, and he really didn't want anything to do with it. So he's kind of turned off, I believe, by some of the media, and I'm not blaming them or saying they're bad people or that it's not justified, or that it is justified. It's just an observation that I'm seeing. He handled it with maturity. I don't think he really wants to talk about it. He just wants to go out and play his game, and it's nice to see that he's put it together. Logan and I had a conversation about, one of the people night in, night out that I just want to have such a good game as Emmanuel. He just every game because he has so many naysayers, and I know that kid has massive potential. And so I just want to see him prove wrong. We have conversations with one of our other buddies, Dylan, about it all the time. About he can't stand Emmanuel. He's such a Emmanuel doubter. But Logan and I are always going at it with him. So anyways, it's just good to see the kid do good. He had a fantastic game. The whole Nuggets actually played good. It wasn't just him. The offense was moving and flowing. It looked fantastic. Everybody was in the right positions. People were cutting. They were finding each other. It was a great game. The Nuggets shot 46% from the field and 33% from the three-pointer. The big part and where they pulled away was going to be in the points in the paint. Oklahoma City only had 38 points in the paint. Nuggets had 54. A lot of that was in transition, and as well as the assist. The assist, when we were in the half court, the ball was moving. We had 27 assists. They had 16. So that's really where the emphasis was, especially at the end of the game. And the consistency with everybody. Paul Millsap had a great game. That bench unit had a fantastic outing when they first came in of Emmanuel Mudiays, Will Barton, and Mason Plumlee, who's been having a heck of a year. And it's been really nice that he's been able to contribute so much already, after getting paid this offseason. So great game there. Nuggets then followed it up against the Orlando Magic just on Saturday, 107-125, took it to the Orlando Magic. Orlando had a couple people out. Gary obviously was out that game, so Will started in his place. Will had a pretty good game. But once again, the most important thing about this game, and I believe Paul Millsap had something in the pregame about, or it was the pregame or postgame about how they really needed to come out and win this game and do it with dominance. And he was 100% right. They put together a good outing against Oklahoma City, and they really needed to show that, hey, this is going to be a team that, you know, is going to be an issue in the West. I'm super happy. One more point on this, by the way. I'm super happy to see all the Nuggets fans very excited and supported and super pumped up and feeding off this energy, and that's great. I love it. I absolutely love it. I like to play the contrarian sometimes. So last year, when a lot of people were down, me and Logan were relatively up and looking forward to the future. When people were up, we're like, hey, there's, you know, some good teams coming on. There's, you know, there's a lot of stuff to keep learning. And I'm going to do the same thing right now. So I want to say, remember the feelings that you have right now of how optimistic you are on this team as a Nuggets fan. That's great. It's fantastic. But make sure that when they go through the slumps, and it's going to happen again, this team is still learning. There's still going to be some times where they're tired, they're not clicking, you know, whatever it is, that they're going to lose some games that they shouldn't. It's going to happen eventually. And when that happens, just make sure not to jump off the bandwagon. The Nuggets, I mean, there was fans already earlier this year about Fire Malone and he's not doing a great job with his rotations and which I haven't mind his rotations and his ability to coach on the fly this year. I thought he's made some awesome decisions, him and the coaching staff. So just remember, when the Nuggets go through a hard streak or a rough spot patch, just make sure to remember the optimism you have now. This team is good, and they are super fun to watch. Super, super fun to watch. So just like I said, stay with the Nuggies. Don't give up on them. Don't jump off and on. Stay with the team. Ride with us. It's going to be a great year. Although I promise there will be times when things don't look as great or feel as great as they do now. So I just want to touch on that real quick because it's something that not bothers or irks me, but it's just something that I do notice is the drastic swings from losing to winning, especially with the Nuggets base. So great stuff though. It's really good to see these guys playing well. But in any case, you know, the game against the Orlando Magic, we were shooting 52% from the field, 41% from the three. The assists again were above 25. They're at 29, so just ridiculous amounts. The Orlando Magic were able to score 50 points in the paint, but Nuggets were at 60, so got up to a 30-point lead at one point. It got pretty brutal. It was nice though. I was happy that they took care of business. Now talking about importance of the season and something that I talked about at the beginning of the podcast is this Portland game tonight. This is a big game. Because now we've had two good games, one against one good team, one against another team that we should have rightfully, you know, pounced on a little bit. And so tonight is going to be, once again, another decent team, and they're a rival. They had our number last year a couple times. We did beat them last year, but they had our number for the most part. And really, if anything, it's just the couple of games, the close, tough games that we had that we lost to them, and the fact that Jusuf Nurkic is now on that team. So anyways, so this game so far for the season has some of the most importance of it tonight. To these guys to come out and, one, put Jusuf Nurkic, CJ McCollum, and Damian Lillard away. And it's going to be a good game. I have no doubt about that. Portland is a heavy half-court team. They're actually dead last in the league for points in transition at 4.6. The Nuggets are in second for fast point. That fits our style, right? We're a fast-paced, high-movement ball team who really likes to, once we can play defense, get out in the fast break and press the issue. With especially like our point guards, Emmanuel Mudiays, and everyone else, the fact that every single person, and we've even seen Kenneth do it, and I had it was a joke I made to Logan. I said, he must have heard me because we came out that podcast. I said, Kenneth Reed's probably one of the only cats who can't take it from coast to coast that I feel comfortable with it. And that's still somewhat true, but like that game, he came out and took it coast to coast and then made it or dunked it or had a great assist or something. And it just made me laugh a little bit. But the whole team in general can get the ball and get out in transition, right? So that's deadly. And then we're going to have to really, really stay on top of that and push the pace as well, because that's going to be really important and detrimental to this win. The other thing about tonight that concerns me and why I think it's going to be a good game, because one thing that I've been noticing this year, and some of the other people have also said it, is the fact that the Nuggets have had some troubles this year, issues with guarding the three, especially the kick-out three and corner threes especially. And I think that's on the defensive end. Sometimes we get sucked in too far. And I don't know if it's I think even Shaq or Chuck said this about, I don't know if they're not respecting the 3-point shooter enough, or what it is, or they're just forgetting about it. But sometimes we forget who's on the three, and it happened again this year too. If you recall the Knicks game, Malone was super upset at the end of that game about how Hardaway Jr. was the 3-point assignment and we blew it and he lit us up from the three. And so it's just something that it seems to happen, especially on a swing when I've noticed it. And I did a pod actually after the Thursday game, or after the Oklahoma City game, and I just never got it out. I got super busy. We had a bunch of stuff going on this weekend. But anyways, one thing I had mentioned in there was the hedging with the big men. One thing I noticed is that Jokic is typically really aggressive up front. We've talked about it before in this pod so far this year. And Millsap does a good job as well. The one person who doesn't seem to hedge very aggressively is Mace. So the point guard, and there's a couple times against the Knicks game where Mace got lit up against Raymond Felton. And Raymond Felton he went at him twice, like back to back. And so Raymond Felton gets the dribble handoff or the pick and roll on the top. The big man rolls, and Mason, instead of being aggressive, and I watched this against the Orlando game too, was he then takes a step back. He puts his hand out, right, like he's going to go start playing defense, takes one step back instead of really cutting off the hedging lane, and that allows them to pass over the defender and down into the entry pass to the big man. Now, that causes issues. Vucevic didn't end up finishing, but he kicked it out once for an assist, and then I think he did it one more time on something else. But with the Knicks game, Felton lit him up, attacked the basket, and we sunk too far down. Jeremy Grant was wide open, hit a three. Next time he came down, or he came in, I don't remember which one came first, came down, attacked the rim because Mace, once again, he picked him up a little bit quicker this time. So I believe it was the second time. He picked him up a little bit quicker this time, but still didn't play the hedge aggressively. So Raymond went straight at him, got the shot off, and Jeremy Grant, once again, was on the corner, sitting out there waiting for a shot. Came in and then came off the missed layup that Felton had because Mace actually decided to pick him up this time. And then he finished for a putback dunk real nice and strong. And so I feel like if we're going to be aggressive, we need to be all the way aggressive. And even Jokic does this sometimes where he won't cut off the actual ball handler. He'll be aggressive, but kind of more just show, and they've taken advantage of him then. So if we're going to be aggressive, we got to be all the way aggressive, cut them off, put our hands up, and get our big guys to make sure it's hard to pass over on top, and make sure the guard as well has his hands up. And then we got to recover and know the rotations, make sure we're not slacking too far behind. So far, and that's not a gripe, so far the Nuggets defense has been fantastic this year. I think it's really stepped up big. Jokic specifically, I didn't think he was going to be anything but more than like a medium good defender. And I'm glad, 100% glad to be wrong. Jokic is showing a ton of potential in the defensive end. So, and the whole team, in fact, the whole team is playing really good. And I think they're understanding that when they play their good defense, they're able to get out and transition, and that's fun and exciting for the whole team. The whole team feeds off it, gets amped up, and then the rest of the half-court offense, when we do have to go into it, is just moving. That Orlando game it looked like Spurs action. Clack, 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 pass, shot, good shot, inside, entry pass to one of the big men to let them do their thing. So just seeing some really great stuff from this team right now. Riding the high just like the rest of Nuggets Nation. I'm really excited about this team, but I know, at one point there'll be some times. It's a long season. It's 80-plus games, so it's a long season. It's going to be exciting. The one thing as well, like I was saying about the three-point shooting team, Portland is actually fifth best in the league right now at three-point shooting percentage at 38.5. Nuggies are 10th with 36.8. We've been shooting pretty decent, but Jamal Murray hasn't been all the way accurate, all the way efficient from the beginning of the season, and Wilson Chandler, poor guy, man. There's been some articles written and stuff, and there's some different takes about him. He's taking a back seat. He's struggling. There's some different narratives, but in my eyes, he's not making the shots that he's taking. A lot of times, he's had several turnovers, and I'm not blaming him. He's the team's fine right now. Logan proposed a really good question the other day with what if Juancho starts and let Wilson come off the bench. Wilson's always come off the bench, and last year when he was coming off the bench, he was fucking fantastic. So that was an interesting conversation. I told him it would not happen unless Juancho just came out and showed out. Juancho's going to have to really show out to bump Wilson off. It's working right now, and it's also allowing Paul Millsap and Jokic to do their thing and get to clicking, which is the most important part of this offense. I think Wilson's right up there, but it's those guys need to click first. Once they do and get going, then we can kind of keep molding. And I think it'll happen. I think what's happening with it is Paul Millsap and Nikola Jokic are figuring each other out. They're figuring out their spacing. It's like a two-man game, even though it's not. The whole team's involved, but especially with figuring themselves out. And as they continue to do that, the team is thriving. I believe Wilson Chandler, because he's such an offensive threat, he'll learn where to get his buckets and where to be for them, to be able to get him the passes and stuff, and for him to create his own shot. I think that'll come. I think that's just one part that's still just lagging a little bit, but not something that super heavily concerns me. Something that will need to change though and get better if we are to keep this consistency, end up in a top 5 position, or even make the playoffs at all. We're going to need Wilson Chandler's performing. So, it's still some things that have to be done. But with this Portland game, it's going to be super important that we're not getting sucked down too far. CJ McCollum's going to light us up. Last year, he's actually, I think he's 3rd in the league at 52% from beyond the arc. So he's a good 3-point shooter. And in fact, what's funny about the Nuggets being such a poor, or I shouldn't say that, having some issues guarding the 3, especially the corner kick-out 3s from sagging down too far, is that Portland is a above shooting average team in the NBA as far as corner 3 goes on the right side. And so that's going to be just super important that these guys make sure they're getting out on them. Damian Lillard's going to attack. It's going to be up to the point guards, and especially Emmanuel Mudiays and his improved defense as well to really, I think, cause some issues for him. I really hope that Will Barton's willing to get on his defense paralysis this year or this game and really make it a big issue. The Portland Trailblazers are 2-4 in games decided by 4 points or fewer. So, like I said, they've been having some troubles, some issues, some things that the Nuggies had some troubles with last year. Damian Lillard was quoted saying about how he doesn't believe that their defense has been super consistent, but they're one of the top. They're 4th in the league right now for defensive rating. So they are a good defensive team. They are going to give the Nuggies some issues. I'm interested to see how Nikola plays against Jusuf Nurkic. Jusuf is a strong bruiser, obviously, and that's something that we've seen Nikola have some issues with, I will say, I guess, so far this year with, like big Dwight Howard and stuff. Big strong bigs kind of throw him off from ever fully getting in rhythm. So it'll be fun to see how he handles that, especially with the rivalry. Jusuf's going to be there should be some good energy. I'll say that. There should be some good energy tonight, especially with Jusuf. It sounds like I think he actually just came out saying that he made a complaint about the coach already right before the game. So never fails. The Jusuf Nurkic drama story never fails. Wish the guy would play better. He's a heck of a talent. So. But anyways, guys, that's all I really got for this episode. Just want to keep it down quick. Just recap the game since I missed last week, and then talk about this game. This game's going to be big and important. Make sure you tune in. Keep it up, Nuggets Nation. Really proud of the way that the Nuggets fan base has been responding to the wins and the support as well. Make sure you go out and see the guys and go watch some home games as well. We need some people cheering in the stands. So with that said, thank you for joining another episode of the Dig in Denver podcast. Make sure to go follow us on Twitter at Dig in Denver. You can follow me at Dig in Derek, Derek, and go follow our YouTube channel. Make sure to go follow us on Instagram at Dig in Denver, Facebook as well. Just make sure to go follow us on all the platforms. If you can, go review, rate this show. Let me know what you think. Come talk to me. We're doing some fan mail bags, and I have some questions to answer still. To the great people who answered those or asked me those questions, I will answer those ones later on this week in another pod that I plan on doing. And guys, it's really important to follow us on those social media platforms because we were actually able to send some people to the Nuggets game already this year, and that's going to happen again. We have these contests all the time where we like to give back to the community for the people, by the people. Make sure to get you guys out to some Nuggets games, some free games. Go enjoy that with your friends or family. So follow us on those sites, and we'll let you know when we're having those competitions. Most of the time it's, best questions asked or, a fan-submitted picture, best pictures. Nothing crazy, but always fun to get involved with. Get you out to some free Nuggets games this year. I promise we will do that. And I will see you next time on our next episode. I should have Logan back on the podcast. So thanks for coming out, giving me your time and listening. And let's go Nuggies. We'll hopefully be recapping this game with some more high hopes and high spirits. Thanks a lot, guys. Let's dig in.